Okay, welcome back, everyone. Another special guest. We've got Lucas from Bayside Pinball Club. I've had the pleasure of going to some of their meets and had a good time playing some pinballs, playing a bit of competition stuff. Hanging out with interesting people and having a laugh. First time I went, did actually better than I expected. I thought I'd get crushed. I got crushed in the end, but no, I had a fantastic time. So welcome to TGF, Lucas.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So why did you start Bayside Pinball?
I guess if you go back, there was a bit of a history of me enjoying the arcade, and probably enjoyed it more because I wasn't often allowed to go. So made it more enticing.
Yeah.
And when I guess I was looking actually for Back to the Future DVD trilogy on eBay.
Yeah.
And this was probably 10 or more years ago. And I came across the Back to the Future pinball machine. And I said, oh, I remember that. And, being of an age where I had a little bit of disposable income, I thought I'll buy that. And just very, very impulse sort of purchase. I grabbed that, went and picked it up off the guy. And he had a few others there. And so that started me collecting. So I bought a couple more pinball machines and got onto some people on some of the forums, Aussie Arcade, and that was probably about it at the time. There wasn't much going around on Facebook or anything. And I found a couple of meets, the Peacock Inn in, where is it? Northcote. Mm-hmm. I went there and started playing around some of the competitions and, meeting the people in the scene. And from there was a couple more sort of came up. The Brunswick Brawlers and Western Wizards kicked off. And, I thought I'll do my own closer to home because I'm sort of down Parkdale, Bayside area. So I started wandering around all the pubs looking for somewhere to host it, initially planning to put my own machines in, and I very quickly found out that nearly every pub down there had machines from Zach's Amusements in there. So I contacted Zach, and after pestering him for a long time, he got me to come in and have a chat, and we sort of came to an arrangement. And our first meet was at the Edgy, the Mentone Hotel. Mm-hmm. That went down really well, big attendance. The venue were really happy. And then they shut down the next week. So we were off from there. We moved to King's Amusements, which was Boundary Road in Bayside. It was a pool hall. Mm-hmm. And Zach had some machines there, and it was his suggestion. He said, why don't you move there? And, we originally had two in at the Mentone. He said, I will put a third one in there. It's a bigger place. So we kept going there. It was going on well again. But the food wasn't that great. So the numbers started to drop, and we scouted around. Then we moved to the Sandbelt. There were 3 machines in there, and I think we ended up with 6 was the most we had there. And then we were having issues with maintenance on the machines. We couldn't access them, and it was affecting the competitions. And then we moved down to General Public. So we're currently at General Public. We've got 8 new machines with a different operator in there now, who's down there every week and maintaining them, or every month when we turn up, maintaining the machines. So I guess that's not just how it started. It's a brief history.
Now,
what we are.
Do you do some of the maintenance yourself?
No, I don't. I would if they were my machines. I do have the ability to do it, but the guy that is running the machines down there now is one of the local techs from down here as well.
Oh, okay.
Very good. The machines are well tuned. as you've experienced, the ones down there play quite well.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
And so before all this kind of restriction business was going on, how often were you having a meetup?
We meet up the last Thursday of every month.
Yep.
So it's just a monthly event, and we run an IFPA sanctioned event. That is probably just to keep the competitive players interested in the club, but I do try and make Bayside a bit more casual than all the other events as well. Like, we really try to encourage, beginners and people to bring their families along. And realistically, general public's very good. There's bowling lanes down there and a kiddie casino and all the redemption machines and decent food and also a bar. So it's a good all-round venue.
And so why pinball, really? So because it's like, you get so many people who would go, look, they might go retro arcades or modern arcades, or they go, look, I'm going to go into esports and play either PC or console sort of thing. So why pinball?
Yeah, well, that's probably an interesting one. I think we've had a chat briefly before, and like one of my all-time favorite games to play was Double Dragon, and it was a game changer. And but when it came out, it was like 60 cents a credit, and the pennies were still 20. So I'd get 3 times as many games on a pinball machine as I would on that, and it was a bit of a love for that. I'm also very hands-on person. I'm a tradesman, so the mechanics of a pinball machine I enjoy. And I also like the fact that it's real. Like, no one can program the ball movement. All they can program is the result of it, hitting the switch or whatever it does on the play field. So compared to anything digital, it's very real. It is real,
Well, I never really looked at pinballs when I was very young. I remember my younger sister did, and that was the same thing. It was the cost thing. And I used to see this old kind of old mechanical style thing and go, why would you want to play that sort of thing in my mind? Because it was like, I associated it with like 50s and 60s type pinballs. But then I remember, a brief visit, going to the movies just after high school. This is in Sydney. And going in, there was arcades everywhere. And these new style pinball machines came along and it kind of took over. They were everywhere, like your Back to the Futures, your Doctor Who's, your Judge Dredds, your Twilight Zone, Indiana Jones, Last Action Hero, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Fishtails, all those ones. It was just like, wow. And then it was like, I wasn't looking at arcade games anymore, even though I still I have 2. But when I was out, I wasn't really looking at those things anymore. I was looking at pinball. Yeah.
Well, I think there's a really corny sort of phrase they have out there, a world under glass, and it gets thrown around a lot. And it's probably the best description of one of the things that draws you into it. Everything in there is real. And I find, and look, I'm of the era, the DMD era that you were talking about. That's when I started really playing them. There were a few of the alphanumerics around, but the DMD machines were the ones I liked, well, even though Back to the Future, which was my real nostalgia machine to go to, was still an alphanumeric, but it was right on the end of them. Indiana Jones, a pinball adventure, was the Williams one, was the second machine I ever purchased. And that one I tore down completely and restored ground up. So I know it intimately. But, I was also very much drawn to, simple things like the lighting effects when they're in attract mode, these sweeps and patterns they were doing with the playfield lighting. And I think at a younger age as well, I'd seen pinball machines and played them, and I didn't get it. Here I am just flipping a ball and stopping it going through the gap. And once I discovered that the lights actually meant something, and you could get in, and you know, some of them were really intuitive, some not so much. And I think there was a lot of, I guess, adventure in figuring out what does what, how you get a mode started, you know. All of a sudden figuring out that multi-ball wasn't a random event, you know, it's a series of shots you've made to make it happen, you know. And as a younger kid, and there weren't heaps of guys around the arcade, so it's not like there was just lots of I guess communication around as to how to do it, how to do that. You just discovered it all yourself. And I think, you know, that's what I like about them is, you know, there's always a slightly different mode on this machine. I mean, there's a lot of repetition and it's pretty limited, I guess, as to where you can go. But some of the more current stuff now, they're getting more and more creative with the rule sets, and there's some very simple stuff in there for beginner players, and there's stuff that's really complex sets of rules and, you know, things you have to do to get modes started. There's, you know, games I've been playing for years and I still don't know how to do things. But yeah, I guess it's just you know, you really dive deep into a table, and it kind of amazes me as well where, you know, a series of maybe 8 or 9 different shots can create such an immersive experience, you know.
Yeah.
So
fantastic. And what do you own at the moment?
Oh, I've got an AC/DC Premium, a Metallica LE, Wizard of Oz, the Big Bang Bar, Iron Maiden LE. I've got Alice Cooper, obviously like the music pins. I've got a old, I think it's 1987 Fire, so it's an older sort of System 11. I've got a Stern Playboy, Ghostbusters LE, Kiss LE, Star Wars Data East. I've got the Star Wars Sega. Stern Indiana Jones, Williams Indiana Jones, Circus Voltaire, Star Trek Next Gen, Jurassic Park Lost World, RoboCop, Back to the Future, and I've got Rick and Morty coming shortly. And hopefully also very soon I will get the Big Lebowski.
There you go. That's a lot of machines.
That's all.
Now, are you able to have them all on at the same time?
Yes.
What's the electric? And this is, I'm actually really curious. What's the electrical bill like? If you do that?
Look, it's probably not too bad. I mean, they draw 5 amps. So, well, it's got a 5 amp fuse, so they're probably running, I don't know, 3.5 or something like that.
Okay.
So look, I've never really had a big month playing pinball and gone, oh wow, my power bill's high, you know. I think, you know, the fridge and the aircon probably rip it to pieces compared to them. So
the only reason I asked that, because I remember I was watching this show on television around probably 18 months ago, and there was a guy in UK, and he had his own kind of like a house. It wasn't like an extension, but he built it to look like an 80s arcade parlor, and you know, had all the beautiful carpet and everything else. And then on the show, that he was basically going, I don't want to get rid of it, but I can't really afford to. I love having everything on, but over time it costs money. And then they made this business arrangement. I was like, well, why don't you lease out so people can have select parties and under your rules, so they come in and do that. And he started doing that, and that basically covered his you know, air conditioning, electricity bills. So but yeah, I was kind of curious. But this is another thing I was going to ask you. How does it make you feel when you turn all those machines on and you go off and do something and you come in and you can hear them going?
It just makes me want to play, but
yeah, of course. But like, it gives you, like, it makes you that, like, that harks back to those, you know, older times when they were everywhere, and you walk in and you'd hear that sound of people playing?
Oh yeah, I love the sound of people playing. I mean, there's a few things that sort of kick the nostalgia in for me. So, um, just a normal playing sound, it just, I guess, the nostalgia is not there because we now do it down at the club so often.
Yeah,
so it just becomes an everyday. One of the things that really kicks the nostalgia in is this electronic noise of the attract mode lighting in the old Data East machines. And I don't know if you what I'm talking about, but you can hear as the sweeps go across all the lights and everything like that, you can hear this hum of all the lights getting turned on and off. And that really takes you back. And then, you know, the attract mode sound will kick in, you know, and it'll play this little snippet of music. And it's like, yeah, that was like walking down the line of pinball machines at the arcade and going, which one am I going to put my money into? You know, it doesn't matter now because I don't pay to play them anymore. But, you know, back then that was the big moment was, you know, what's got the best light show, what's got the best attract mode sound, and, you know, which playfield really draws me in to want to play it, you know. And it's kind of funny having the games on free play. I don't know, maybe it takes a little bit away from it. You know, but,
no, that's curious. Well, look, I hope that with you know, a lot of these restrictions start to, you know, ease up, and, you know, as in, you know, that is when it's a good thing, meaning that we can start to kind of do that, because it'd be good to see the club back up and running. I know a lot of people would love to do it. And I'm pretty sure the first one back, there'll be a big crowd, because people would be happy to kind of catch up with people and go through. The one thing now, I always ask this all my everyone I interview is like, you know, you're big on pinballs and everything else. You know, what's your kind of like favorite films, you know, all time, and, you know, what do you watch on TV?
Yeah, well, I reckon I've given you my 3 favorite trilogies just from my collection. But I guess yeah, look, with I'll go back to just with the COVID. Look, it's good and bad it's been for me. So I started Bayside in 2014, so it's entering its 6th year. You know, in that time, we've run a lot of events. We've done a lot of promotional stuff at PAX. You know, we've taken machines into PAX Oz. We were at the first flip out. We've been at every flip out with Mr. Pinball down in Melbourne there. And now Melbourne Silver Ball do a lot of the competitions down there. Actually, Marty helped me with the first competition down there the first year. But I also have 2 young children. I've got a 4-year-old and an 18-month-old. And to tell you the truth, it was 6 years of running it and doing the competitions and, you know, dealing with the personalities of professional players. It was starting to grind a little bit. So it was probably a welcome break. Because there's a lot more to it than just showing up and, you know, taking people's score down. It can be pretty taxing at times. So I guess that was good, but probably the other thing is, you know, I've appreciated a little break. And one, I don't feel like I've let all the people who enjoy going down there down, because the break's not my call. But it's also refreshed me a little bit, I think, and given me drive to get out there and, you know, kick it into gear again. I've got a machine in the garage that I've got to get ready for the next giveaway. It probably needs a good tear down and rebuild, but yeah, we've raised enough money to give that away. So yeah, I guess that's the COVID side of it, and then, you know, back onto the TVs and movie questions. The traditional trilogies, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and Back to the Future. I mean, can't go wrong. I'm really into Rick and Morty, so always looking forward to new stuff coming out on that. And other than that, I really don't get a lot of time for movies and TV and even pinball now. You know, it's my garage is actually quite a mess. I've been renovating the house, so I've probably last week got the carpet back down in the kids' bedrooms. So that's now it might be time to get back out into the garage and get some going again.
Right. Well, it was good talking to you, Lucas. Hopefully that everyone from Bayside Pinball sees this, and other people who are here in Melbourne that would probably want to be a part of it. So for those people who are watching this to the TGF New Game Plus stream via Twitch, we're going to have all of Lucas's details to do with Bayside Pinball available, so we'll have it all through the social media. And if you're watching this through Cause and Effect Gamers YouTube channel a few weeks later, we're going to have all that information in the description there too. So yeah, and also it's good because you'll know who Lucas is. So if the next event is Bayside, or it ends up being next year's PAX or any of those sort of things, you've got a friendly face. And all I say is that you put on a hell of a show. You know, when I've come down, I always felt welcome. You're a very welcoming person. I always thought that was always a big thing, because I hadn't been before first time, and I knew a few people, but I found you very welcoming, and everyone around there was quite pleasant, and and had fun just hanging around. And a lot of the time I just enjoyed sitting there watching people play. So on the different stuff.
Yeah. It's a good crew down there, I was, strange thing, I'm pretty extroverted generally, and I was a little nervous heading to my first pinball competition. Probably going back to being nervous going into Countdown down in Frankston, but guys are friendly as in general, lots of different personalities and lots of connections. There's guys there that can do all sorts of work on electronics, mechs. We've got guys that can fabricate parts, and so it's actually been a really good network as well. Yeah.
Well, Lucas, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, and hope to physically see you soon.
Yeah. Well, I'll get some ads out there when I have the discussions with general public, and I'll start promoting again as soon as we know we can start holding events again.
All right. Thanks, Lucas.
Thanks, Andrew.